Today, we become legends.
So I'm not usually one to do full-on tier lists like this, because I think they get a bit messy and you're placing so many different gods. I prefer to do quick rundowns like I do with my top 3 gods for every role videos, or I'll discuss certain gods if I think they're imbalanced, but for the most part I tend to not do a tier list, but a lot of people have asked me to do a full tier list on what I think of the meta, and with the recent SPL tournament going on with playoffs and stuff like that and that concluding, I've kind of got a good handle on the meta, and I've also been grinding a lot of ranked in the recent splits, so this is going to be based mostly on my ranked experience and how I think things will go in ranked, and I guess it applies to casuals as well, because they're just sort of a less try-hard version of ranked. I'll be looking a little bit at how SPL playoffs went and things like that, but I'm not an SPL player. I don't claim to be an SPL player. I'm more of a top ranked player, so this is going to be based mostly on ranked, not too much on SPL. Basically, just what I think you should be picking in ranked if you want to win games. So it will differ slightly from someone if they're doing an SPL based tier list, for example. Some picks are better in SPL with 4-5-man comms than they are in just solo queuing ranked. But yeah, I have brief explanations of these tiers here, but I'll just give them a quick overview. So S+ tier is a first phase ban, so before you even get to pick anything, or an instant pick if it gets through the ban phase. S tier are going to be your top picks in the first phase, so things that might get through bans, but you're going to be lucky to pick in those first 3 picks, or you'll ban them in the second phase. A+ tiers are slightly above balance, good picks to round out your comp with in the final few picks. A tier are just balanced, that's pretty simple. B+ tier are slightly below balance, or situational picks that you might want to pick into certain comps, but not always. B tier gods are weak that I think need buffs. Mostly people will play these gods if they're a main of the god and they know they can do really well. C tier gods, I just think you should avoid these gods unless you're really insane at that god and do really well on them specifically. And D tier, D stands for do not pick. If I put any gods in this tier, which I don't think I will to be honest, but we'll see as we go through, just don't pick them or you're going to lose instantly. Alright, so that's the tiers explained, let's jump in. So Achilles, I really like Achilles right now for ranked. He plays 2 roles pretty well. I won't really consider him viable in support, but he plays jungle and solo really well. He's got really good team fights, the execute works super well in high level ranked games. He does pretty well in the laning phase, you just kind of wait to hit your power spikes with Achilles and you can go even or win pretty much any matchup. You can pick Achilles and not really care about who you're playing him into. And if you're playing him from jungle, his burst damage is crazy and you can really hard carry from jungle. I think he's definitely an S tier character. Is he S tier? Maybe he's A+. I don't think you're really picking Achilles in the first phase or banning him in the second phase. I think maybe he is A+. He's a high A+ though. He's almost S tier in my opinion, because he does play 2 roles pretty well. Agni's balanced, honestly. He's just a pretty fundamental mage. He does a lot of work, but he's not anything insane. AMC, B+, I think. He's a little bit below the balance point and definitely a situational pick. I think he's more in this tier for being situational because you can't just pick AMC with any comp because you're going to get died by junglers 24/7. You have to pick him with something that will really enable AMC to kind of do what he wants to do. Apwash, I really don't like Apwash. I never see him, and whenever I do see him, he loses. It feels like he should be better because we're in a healer meta and he has the stun on the healers and the anti-heal on his one. But I don't know, he applies Divine Ruin really well as well. He should be good, he just feels like he isn't. I'll put him in situational picks though, because if the enemy team gets an Afro or a Hell or something, you probably do want to pick Apwash as your mid laner. I never really see him do well, so I don't want to put him any higher than that. Anher's just balanced, I'd say. Yeah, I don't think Anher's particularly strong, but he's also not weak at all. He's not a situational pick. You can kind of just pick Anher when you want if you want an aggressive ADC. Amaterasu, underrated, I think. I want to put her in A+. I think she's a really good solo laner to just round out team comp. She does insanely well in team fights. Not too bad in lane, honestly. There's not too many matchups where she gets absolutely bodied. She can hold her own in a lot of matchups, and then once you get to late game team fights with armor, that's where she shines. Anubis, for ranked, honestly balanced. A lot of people have put Anubis down here, and if it was an SPL tier list with 4-5-man comms and all the players being insanely good and knowing how to counter him, yeah, I'd put him down there, but in ranked, a lot of people don't even build anti-heal against Anubis, and honestly, in my experience, Anubis does fairly well, so I'm going to leave him imbalanced. Aokwang, I never see this god, so I don't really know where to put him. I think the fact that I never see him means he's probably pretty weak. Probably main, honestly. If you're an Aokwang main, you can probably make him work. But honestly, I don't think he's that good. Aphrodite in ranked, I have to put her in S+. Like, she is really a first phase ban or just insta-pick the god. Probably the best healer in the game. Her ultimate is just insane. Like, she has pressure from wave 1 with how crazy the burst damage is now. Like, honestly, if you're not banning Aphrodite in the first phase, you're looking to insta-pick her. So yeah, she fits the S+ tier definition to a T, really. Apollo's kind of weak. The global pressure's nice, but it's not really the best. Like, if you're picking global pressure, you kind of want to go like Chernobog, maybe. He doesn't do amazingly in team fights, because his ultimate is kind of useless. I don't think he's like B tier, though. I think I'll put him in B+. He's probably on the same level as AMC, in my opinion. Arachne with the Golden Blade buffs is going to be a lot better. Probably A+. I think before the Golden Blade buffs, I'd just put her in balanced. Because for ranked, she can really just like snowball from the jungle super hard with like just farming up with Golden Blade. But I think with the buff to it, she's just going to be a little bit stronger than that. So probably A+, I think. Ares is fair. Good for an aggressive support if you're looking to go like a Beads Burner comp, like you can pair him with like a Hunbats or something like that. He works quite well. Artemis, honestly underrated, I think. After the changes to the ultimate and stuff, making it a little better, I honestly want to put her in balance, but I don't really see the results to back it up, so I'll probably just put her in here with AMC and Apollo for now. But honestly, I think she's underrated. I'd potentially want to put her in A tier, but she doesn't have the results. Artio's fair. Nothing wrong with Artio. You can pick her if you want like specific cripples, like she does well into King Arthur or into Fenrir, gods like that. But she's not like a fully situational counter pick. Like you can pick her into non-counter matchups and still do well with her. She doesn't really see too much playing solo anymore. She's more of a support god, but she's definitely balanced as a support. Athena, another underrated god in my opinion. I kind of want to put her in A+, honestly. Like, most people will probably just say Athena's pretty balanced, but honestly, like, the global presence is good. The taunt can just win fights on its own. She's really good for sieging, because you can just dash in and taunt, and you either force speeds and reset, or you get a couple of kills and you just siege the Phoenix, so... Like, with the way ranked games are going, at least for me right now, like, the games go super late and no one knows how to siege, so you can kind of just pick Athena and just, like, taunt people off and carry your team in that way. I'm also going to put her A+, I think. Oilix, A tier. Like, she is situational, obviously. Oilix is kind of always situational, but you can still just kind of pick Oilix into most comps. Like, if you have one knock-up or if they have one jump, you can definitely pick Oilix and it's fine. Baba Yaga, balanced after the buffs, I think. She does a lot of damage now. The ult's a lot easier to use. She feels a lot better, but she still has, like, pretty bad mobility. Like, you can easily stun or silence out the 3, and she's not, like, amazing, so pretty balanced, I think. Bacchus is weak. Maybe even B tier. There's just not too much Bacchus does. Like, he brings anti-heal to the table, but that's kind of all he does. Like, he's good for an aggressive support, I guess, if you want to just, like, hard carry your team. But honestly, I don't think he's that good. Bakasura after Golden Blade changes, probably S tier. Like, you're not really picking him in the first phase, honestly, but Bakasura after the changes is going to be super good. Like, I think I'd probably have him in A tier before the Golden Blade changes, much like Arachne's moved up 1 tier. Like, Baka just rushes Golden Blade and then just farms people. Like, you don't focus on fighting too much, you just farm up with Golden Blade and then you hit, like, level 15 when the enemy jungle's level 12 and you press 4 on people and they all die. He's, like, super good for stomping ranked games, in my opinion. Baron Samedi, underrated, definitely. Can play mid, sees most play in solo, but yeah, can definitely play mid as well. Maybe even flex into support. I think A tier. A lot of people are underrating Baron, in my opinion. Bastet, A tier. Pretty good jungler, does a lot of like damage throughout like the mid game, but lacks CC, which makes her end game not amazing. Bellona. See, I'm a Bellona main, and I do really well with her, but that might just be because I'm a Bellona main. I don't know. I don't really see anyone else picking Bellona, so I'll put her in balanced. Like, if this was just my personal opinion and not what other people were playing and what I've been seeing and a little bit of SPL, I'd probably put her in A+, but I don't think she's that good, honestly. Kabrakan, B+, probably. Does okay in solo into certain matchups, like matchups that can't interrupt your 3 and you just body them early game with, like, super fast clear. It can work. And honestly, Kabrakan support's not that bad, like, as a ranked strategy. If you want to just, like, play an aggressive support, body them in duo lane, and then kind of win off of that. It's not too bad. Kama is either S+ or S. I think S for ranked, honestly. Like, I don't really see him banned in the first phase, and obviously, Kama's mostly a solo laner. You can play him in jungle, but He's mostly picked for that like really aggressive like solo lane dominance. So he's one of the few solo laners that can kind of hard carry games in ranked. Like you can just get a massive lead because people don't know how to deal with Kama's pressure in solo. You get like a 3-level lead, you start proxying waves and rotating mid early, force early gold furies. Honestly, maybe he is S+. Yeah, he probably is, honestly. Like, you can just win games on your own from solo with Kama. He's really good. Kurdanos, underrated in my opinion. Probably about as good as Anher. Honestly, he's probably on the upper tier of like A. I think he's almost A+, honestly. I've seen a lot of people bringing out Kurdanos in ranked and actually doing like a lot of work. Doesn't do too well with crit, and crit's kind of meta right now, but like, honestly, with Spectral Armor going around and like Mercury being a pretty good jungler, he's fine to just like go a Kins build and shred that way. Cerberus, fair. Passive's pretty good in the anti-heal meta. Ult's really good if you have like other ways to punish beads, like Hundats, things like that. Chak's bad. B maybe? Maybe C? I want to put Chak in C. He doesn't do anything, man. He wins lane, but he only wins lane about as hard as Kama wins lane, and Kama does so much more with the lead that he gets. Like, Chak's only relevance in late game team fights is the 3-second silence, or however long it is. As soon as he ults, and like, the ult's over, he's actually just useless. Like, if you want to, you could build him full damage, and then he can like, potentially threaten people with the axe and the 2, but if you're building him hybrid or tank, he actually just does nothing in late game team fights, which my ranked games are going super late right now. I don't know about everyone else, but my ranked games are going 30 plus minutes, like on a common basis, and 30 plus minutes if you're solo and a picked Shaq, you're just a man down at that point. Like, he sucks. Chang'e, pretty fair. There's definitely better healers you can pick. She's kind of unique, like, she has the passive, which can do pretty well. I don't even know where she sees play. No one plays Chang'e, honestly. Like, she's probably a mid laner, maybe she works in solo. I don't know, no one plays Chang'e, but I don't think she's bad, honestly, so yeah, I'll go for balanced. Chernobog's good, man. A+, definitely. Like, the global rotation potential, I talked about it with Apollo, is a lot better than Apollo's global rotation potential. 1, because it's faster, 2, because it doesn't drain all your mana, 3, because you get all the damage mitigations, 4, because you get a global AoE slow. Like, it's better in so many ways, and Chernobog's base kit is about as good as Apollo, so yeah, if you want global rotation potential, this guy's your man. Chiron's fair. I'd say he's about as good as like Anher, and probably not as good as Kurdanos, but like I said, he's sort of an upper A tier, I think. Kronos, kind of bad. Situational pick probably, or if you're really good with him, you could play him as well. I don't see Kronos doing very well. Like, his early game kind of sucks, and in team fights, like, with how bursty, like, assassins from the jungle are in the meta right now, like, he just gets bursted before he can even get his ult off. It feels like he doesn't do too much. Cthulhu, S+, definitely. Cthulhu's broken. I obviously haven't tried him in ranked in, like, a proper competitive setting yet, but he just seems to body no matter where you play him. Like, you can go solo with a hybrid build, you can go jungle or mid with a full damage build, you can go support with a full tank build. It actually doesn't seem to matter. This card's really broken. Not much more to say, really. Cuchulainn? Underrated, I think. I want to put him A+, but I don't think he's as good as, like, Achilles and Armor. You know what? I'm moving Achilles up. Like, he's better than... I think Cuchulainn is as good as Armor, honestly, but Achilles is better, definitely. Especially because he plays 2 roles. Yeah, this makes more sense. I think Cuchulainn, honestly, in my opinion, A+. Like, he does really well into almost every matchup. It's really hard to lose lane with him because you get so much pressure from the rage form. And then your teamfight's not bad, honestly. If you can play around your rage and, like, drop your entire kit and time a transform to dive onto their backline, you're really hard to kill. Like, if you go rage mode and pop thorns, like, you can just dominate in teamfights. The AoE knockup's always going to be useful. Like, he's a good god that's, like, just all-round good at all stages of the game. Like, it's a very safe pick. Cupid, A tier. Does well into, like, certain matchups. Can do pretty well in lane. Teamfight's okay if you have, like, a team that doesn't buy sprint or doesn't have much slow immunity to dodge the ult. Pretty well-rounded hunter. Daji, S+ or S. I don't think she's better than Baka, honestly. Maybe she is. I don't know. She kind of just deletes people in teamfights. I think I'll put her S+. like, no one's really first banning her or insta-picking her, but she's also, like, she's better than Bakasura, in my opinion. She just dives the backline, absolutely nukes someone, and then just ults, and then buys a bunch of time to either get out or, like, continue the fight. She just does what every other jungler wants to do, but better, pretty much. Discordia, super underrated. Even though everyone thinks she's good, I think she's, like, one of the top mid laners, like, definitely top 5. Not S+, I don't think, but definitely S. She's one of the better mid laners. Like, the amount she can just spam out her 1 and 2 over and over again in team fights, like, if you hit a Madness and they don't have beads, they're just dead. The ult's super strong, like, with the amount of AoE it can put out. Definitely a really good mid laner. Erlang, balanced, I think. Plays solo pretty well, plays jungle a bit better than his solo. Can kind of flex into support, but not really. The lack of CC immunity kind of hurts. Like, Erlang just gets found by Daji because he has to go beads. Because no CC immunity in the ult. I don't know, he doesn't really do too much that, like, a lot of these other solo laners or junglers higher up do, so I think balanced is a pretty fair place for him. Fafnir, pretty balanced as well. Has a lot of CC. Kind of a little bit vulnerable, especially when he's deforming from his ultimate if you haven't won the fight by that point. Really good for objectives and sieging though. Like, if you can get late game and you, like, coerce boost an entire team, you can melt Fire Giant in 3 seconds flat and really catch teams off guard with that. So if you have, like, a team that'll listen to your calls on Fafnir, he's actually really good. Fenrir, balance, honestly. Maybe even slightly below balance or situational. It doesn't feel that good, honestly. He kind of just gets out-pressured by a lot of the other junglers, and then his ult's good, but if you can immune it, which a lot of gods can, like through long-duration CC immune ultimates. Like, if Fenrir tries to ult a Daji, she just ults into this guy and waits out his ultimate, and then pulls him. Yeah, Fenrir doesn't seem that good to me. Freya's trash. Maybe even C tier. Yeah, honestly C tier. Like, I think you should definitely avoid picking Freya unless you're absolutely insane with her and think you can carry. One of the weakest gods in the game, in my opinion. Ganesh is good. Balanced or A+? Probably balanced. I don't think he's, like, insane, but he's a very fundamental support. Like, there's nothing wrong with Ganesh. You can pick him into almost anything. The silence is super underrated, honestly. Like, that long duration silence. Geb's, like, here, I think, on the same level. I feel like Geb and Athena sort of rise and fall together. Like, the shield's always going to be good. Like, if you can keep your mid laner alive, and they can just, like, keep pumping out rotations to their cooldowns, he's always going to be good. And, like, he does have that initiation factor where you can, like, do a big sort of blink initiation or something like that. Guan Yu, underrated, definitely. I've seen a few people bring him out in support, and he does pretty well in solo as well. I don't think I'm willing to put him A+ yet, though. I think A tier, but he's definitely underrated as Guan. I can see him rising in like, coming weeks, honestly. Hachiman, really good. Probably on the level of, like, Cherno, I'd say. Like, he's not a top ADC, but I think, like, below the top few ADCs, you sort of find Hachiman and Chernobog and gods like that. Hades, for ranked, Hades is, like, balanced, I think. Maybe, yeah, maybe situational, actually. You don't just pick Hades on any comp and win, because he's sort of like Chak, but, like, to a much lesser extreme, where, like, he bodies lane, but doesn't do amazing in teamfights. But Hades can still do stuff in teamfights. Like, the long duration fear is really good if they don't have beads. It's actually really underrated that, like, if you can get a fear off, it lasts, like, 2.5 seconds or something like that, and you can just nuke someone in that time. And then, like, if you can manage to force dashes or pick Hades into gods without dashes or CC immunity, like, his ult can do a lot, but that's where the situational comes from. Hebo, really good. I want to put him in S. Like, for ranked and just hard carrying games, Hebo's sick. Like, jungle or mid, you can make him work either way. And you can just win team fights on your own with him. You blink in, you 3 and you ult, and, like, one person's just dead instantly. And even if you die in return, like, you can just take out their MVP, and then hopefully your team wins the fight from there. Hell's good. I don't think she's quite S+ tier. I don't really see her doing, like, insanely well, and she doesn't get picked that much in my ranked games anyway. But I think definitely S tier. Really good mid laner. She sees a little bit of play in solo as well, as far as I know. Haim? It's either S or S+ for this guy. Haim had a weird thing, like, he was super really good and a bit overrated, honestly. Like, people were first banning him and first picking him. And then he's gone through, like, a massive fall-off where people think he's not good anymore, but he's still really good. Maybe even S+. Like, for ranked games, like, Haim's early game and his ult just ruins people. You can really just hard carry with him, honestly. I think he's still S+. For ranked, anyway. Hera's good, actually. Probably not as good as, like, Discordia, I don't think. But, yeah, definitely a very good mid laner. Definitely above balance. Hercules, probably A+. He's playing solo, he's playing support. Not really viable in jungle, but, like, the early game pressure Hercules brings, and honestly, he can play teamfights quite well as well. Especially if he comes out of, like, solo lane or even support with a lead. We've seen what he can do at the SPL, honestly. Like I said, I'm not basing this too much on SPL, but SPL meta trickles down into ranked, and I'm already seeing a bunch more Hercules is just, like, using his early game. And even late game, like, you can just, if you Earthbreaker Driving Strike, like, their support, or just anyone that doesn't have beads, it's instantly a free kill. Like, if you're on a siege and their support's playing a little too far up, you just pick them off into your team, and they just get nuked instantly, because tanks die super fast in this meta. Really good, like, pick-off god, honestly. Horus for ranked is kind of not that good. In SPL, he's definitely really good, but no one uses his ultimate properly in ranked. Like, there's no calls, really. There's no grouping up as much as there is in SPL. The Golden Blade buff makes him better in solo, I guess. I honestly don't even want to put him in A+. Like, people say Horus is super good, which is why I want to put him up here, but I honestly don't even think he's as good as, like, Hercules, Athena kind of picks. No, I'll leave him there for now, because, like, he does see a lot of play, and the Golden Blade change in solo could possibly make him more viable there, so if he plays 2 roles, maybe he deserves to be A+. Huyi's a really good hunter, super underrated right now. Probably better than Chernobog in my opinion. I'm going to put him in S. Like, just play him fundamentally. You don't have to go for, like, crazy triple bounces or anything. You can play him honest, and he just does a lot of work. He has tons of objective damage. Really good for sieging, because you can just ult, like, the back of their Phoenix, and it forces them back into, like, Titan Room and stuff like that, and you can take the Phoenix for free. Like, his ult's really good for zoning. He's fairly safe, has a lot of outplay potential in the 1v1 and duo lane. Just a really good hunter, honestly. Hunbats for ranked, probably here. Same level as, like, Bakasura. He does different things to Bakasura, but I think he's probably on about the same level. Like, he teamfights really well, you just play around his ultimate, you burn beads, or, like, if your team calls the beads are burned, you can pretty much get a free kill. Does really well in, like, jungle teamfights around objectives and Fire Giant and stuff like that. Less good at sieging, but pretty good at defending against sieges. Because when their front line dives in, you just totem in front of them, it pushes them backwards towards your team and, like, towards the Phoenix. They tank it for ages and your team kind of nukes them, so... yeah, Hunbats is pretty good. You just play around his ultimate. Goddess of Magic, pretty balanced. Really good for early game clear, good objectives, like, potential. Not very great at sieging, honestly. But yeah, she's kind of low mobility, so a lot of the junglers that dive her, like, Daji just dives her for free. And if she ults, Daji just pillars up and her ult's useless. Like, a lot of the good junglers can just dive her for free. That's kind of the reason she's not that good. Izanami, trash. Weak, or if you're an Izanami main, you could pick her. Like, she stomps early game, which is why she's really good in low ranks. Like, if you're playing in bronze, silver, maybe even gold, Izanami can actually do a lot of work. I'd probably put her in, like, A tier. But I'm basing this on my own ranked experience, which is, like, Masters or High Diamond. Izanami just does not do too much there. She's really easy to pick off in team fights because the dash is so slow. And the ult, like, if you miss the ult, which is doable, she's just not very good, honestly. Giannis, A+, probably. I really like him as a mid laner. Like, especially for ranked, you can just make plays. Like, if you can just command your team and just, like, portal them around the map and stuff, it's really good. You can one-shot just, like, going, like, ult through a wall into, like, someone's just deleted. And you can really just power farm on Giannis, kind of like you do on Baka. He's like the Baka of mid lane, where you can just power farm and be 4 levels up on everyone else in the game. If your team's trash, like, I don't recommend power farming and doing nothing if your team are, like, doing work, but if your team's trash and you realise you're not going to win any early game fights, you can kind of just power farm and try and carry the game on Giannis, which is really good for ranked. Jingwei? Probably S. I don't think she's honestly on the level of Haim for ranked play, because Haim just snowballs and, like, you can carry games with him. Jingwei's more of, like, a safe pick, where, like, she does super well, like, in the later game team fights and just plays a safe laning phase. I think she's probably on a similar level to Huyi. Better than Huyi, but, like, not quite S+, I don't think. She'd be close, though, I think. She's, like, one of the upper S tiers, definitely. Yolm's very underrated. Probably A+. Does really well in solo, like good counter matchup to like King Arthur and things like that. And plays support reasonably well as well. The ultimate's super disruptive in team fights, really good for sieging. Good for defending objectives as well, because you just ult in and like throw them all around and they have to either drop fire or like risk stealing it. Kali is super good. For ranked, like, people don't know how to deal with Kali and you just kind of farm and then you hit 25 minutes and you can win the game on your own, which not many gods can really say you can do that. Khepri, A+, I think. Khepri's another, like, support where you can kind of just, like, carry your team, because, like, you just give them mitigations and then, like, you can keep your mid laner alive, similar to Geb. Like, if you give your mid laner a second life and they can just do so much work. With Khepri, you just kind of, like, you pick him and then you decide in, like, the first 10 or 15 minutes of the game which of your two or three carry roles are like the good players of the team, and you just keep them alive and you can win ranked games because of that. So yeah, pretty good. King Arthur, S, definitely. Not S+, because like he has a lot of ways to just like easily get countered. Like he does badly into a lot of matchups because he has to rush Glad Shield, and like magical matchups are rough for him, and some picks can just like absolutely destroy him. Long duration silences and cripples especially, but he wins the laning phase for free against almost any warrior. So, honestly, really good. Similar to Karma as well, you can just get a massive lead from lane and just use your pressure to solo carry the game, which you can't do on many gods from solo. Cuckoo, I guess he's like probably as good as Hera. He's probably like a low A+ tier, I think. Like, he's still good. A lot of people, like, he got nerfed quite a bit. And he came down from like being one of the best gods in the game, and people think he's not good anymore. He's still pretty good. You just got to play around his lack of mobility, and like if you can hit your ults, I think you should definitely still play him. It's just if you're not very good at hitting your Kukulkan ults, definitely don't play him, because that's where a lot of his damage comes from in team fights. But yeah, still really good, I think. Kumba's freaking broken, man. Everyone sleeps on Kumba, no pun intended. But honestly, I want to put him here. Is that stupid? I don't know. I feel like he's better than Khepri and Geb and Athena. Like, honestly, Kumba just stomps. He counters so many gods as well. Like, he counters these two he's next to, actually. Like, Kali and King Arthur. He ruins those two gods. But this is just a pick. Like, this is a personal pick for me. I feel like Kumba Khan is super, super underrated. Like, no one respects, like, the just sheer amount of CC he gives. Like, you just mez and then they either get fucked, or if they beads, you just ult them after they beads and then they get fucked. Like, he just has so many ways to just ruin carries, like, and set up for his team. He's super good. Kuzumba has a lot of disruption. Definitely A+. I don't think he's on the level of, like, a Kumba for support, but he has a lot of disruption. You can kind of solo carry games by just, like, you can play him in solo as well. You press your 2 and you press Thorns. Maybe you build Nemean as well. You just walk at their carries, and for like 6 seconds their carries are utterly useless because you just CCing them and they can't hit you because they'll kill themselves. So yeah, Kuzumbo's really good. Loki, probably avoid unless you're insane. Yeah, he's not like do not pick. He's not that bad. Like I've seen Loki mains do pretty well in ranked with him. But honestly, you have to be pretty insane at Loki to actually make him work in this meta. Medusa's garbage, dude. I think she's C tier, honestly. She just doesn't do anything that other hunters, like, she doesn't do anything better than other hunters do, is what I'm trying to say. Like, she doesn't clear or dominate lanes super well. She doesn't do amazing in team fights, especially on PC, where you can just turn away from her ultimate instantly. Her dash just gets blocked by everything. Like, an assassin just dives her, blocks her dash. The assassin doesn't care about anti-heal because most of the ability-based assassins don't heal anyway. And then they just destroy her. Like, until they make her dash, like, actually usable, she's just not going to be that good. She has good objective damage. Like, the one does a lot, and she can ult people that are trying to steal and things like that, but she's just not very good. Mercury's really good for carrying from jungle. He does kind of similar things to Kali, but he gets online a bit earlier, but isn't quite as, like, 1v5y late game. But you just, like, you build Talaria, and then, like, Arendite or Rage, Deathbringer, Bloodforge, and you just kind of, you can win fights on your own with Mercury, which is what you want from, like, a ranked jungler. Merlin, S, definitely. He's sort of, like, on the exact same level as Discordia, in my opinion. They do different things, but they're both as powerful as each other right now, I think. Mulan, it's either A or A+. It feels like Mulan just doesn't do anything late game. Like, she bodies lane and does a lot of, like, mid-game damage, but once you get to late game, like, her ult's basically useless. If you ult, you just die. Like, with how fast tanks get shredded now, like, if you ult into a fight, you just get, like, one stance of Merlin dropped on you, and then the hunter crits you to death, and you didn't do anything. I don't know. Like, if her ult, mostly her ult, but if her late game team fight was a little bit better, I'd put her higher up, because she does pressure really hard early on. And if you can snowball that, like, she's good, but feels like her late game team fight just isn't good enough for me to put her further up. Neith's pretty fundamental. Nothing wrong with her, but she's not good either. Well, she's not crazy, she's good. Like, you can definitely make her work. Nemesis? So I haven't really tried Nemesis too much after the buffs that came recently. Before the buffs, she'd be B+, maybe the buffs make her A. She doesn't really do too much though, like, it's really hard to play around the ult in ranked, because people don't really recognize it. Like, in a full competitive team comp, you can just say like, oh, I'm ulting this guy, and you just nuke them. But it's harder to do that in ranked. You have to play more around Nem's basic kit in ranked than you do around the ultimate. But I think she's still good. I think A tier is a fair placement for her. On a similar level to like a Wheelix, Bastet kind of junglers. Neja, A tier again. Works okay in solo, works decent in jungle. Just kind of doesn't really do anything better than a lot of the other top junglers do. Nike's busted, dude. Nike's like, barring Cthulhu, because we haven't tried him in ranked yet, Nike's probably the best god in the game. Like, as much as I hate Afro, she has counters. Nike just does not have counters straight up. Play her in jungle if you want and build her like damagey. You can play her in solo, which is just busted as hell. Like, you build solo like solo in Nike, you buy Thorns, you buy Blink, you blink on their backline and you ult them. If they don't have beads, they just get slowed into oblivion and probably nuked. If they do have beads, they have to use it and then you can push them around, and like, Nike's just so strong. Like, you just build like Nemean and Thorns, you walk at their backline and they can't actually do anything to you. You can tank Phoenixes infinitely with your ult, so she's really good on sieges. She does decently well in lane. Like, there's just nothing Nike doesn't do, really. She's insane at all stages of the game, which is why I think she's honestly probably the best god in the game, bar Cthulhu. Nox is situational. Maybe not. Nah, Nox is a main god. Like, if you main Nox and you can hit all your combos, she can work, but if you just play Nox occasionally, I wouldn't really recommend her for like ranked and stuff. You're probably not going to win too much. I don't know. You need to hit your combos like 90% accuracy to be doing work with Nox, and only mains of the god can do that, really. Nua's kind of bad. They made the clay soldiers like less derpy, but she's still bad. Probably situational. Like, a lot of junglers can just like bait out her ult and then just like kill her when she comes down, so she doesn't really have too much safety. And like, a lot of her damage is very single target in team fights. Like, she'll soldiers and then detonate on like pretty much just one person. I don't know, she's not that good. Odin's still decent. You can play him in multiple roles. Like, he plays jungle really well, plays solo pretty well. You could probably even flex him into support if you needed to. You'd think he'd be better in this like anti-heal meta, but honestly he doesn't even play around his ult that much anymore. He plays more around his basic abilities now because his 3 is so busted. Oleron? Underrated, definitely. I feel like most people would put Oleron like down here and stuff, but I don't think he's that bad. Like, I think he's A. You can play him in mid, kinda. And he works. He's better in ADC though. The ult's just super busted. Like, his base kit's not amazing, but the ult is super strong. Like, the ult can turn fights on its own or force speeds. His lack of mobility really hurts him though. Like, especially if his ult's down. Like, if you burn his ult, like, gods like Nike and Dashi and Karma just dive in for free and there's nothing you can do about it. Especially when he plays around lifesteal a lot. Like, you don't lifesteal off Nike shield, you don't lifesteal off a Dashi being on a pillar killing you, you don't lifesteal off a Karma ulting into your backline. Yeah, he's just not that good. Osiris, pretty good. Not on the level of King Arthur and Achilles and stuff. Probably down here. Yeah, I think he's about as good as Rama. Like, he bullies lane super hard, doesn't lose really any matchups. Like, Osiris either goes even or wins pretty much every solo lane matchup aside from maybe like Karma. Probably goes even with Nike, but like, Nike does so much more like late game work than Osiris. Osiris's late game's not amazing. He's sort of just like a lane bully that, like, if you have a lead, you can do a lot of work, like, later into the game, but late game in team fights, he basically just, like, harasses people and does a little bit of damage and, like, draws attention. He doesn't really do too much outside of that. Pele is super good. Really good, like, jungler for just, like, getting a lead early and snowballing it. People still underrate the passive to this day. Like, they try and box you and you activate the passive and then you just body people. Does, like, pretty good AoE damage for fights. Honestly, if you want to pick an early game jungler, Pele is probably your best bet. Like, Baka's more of like a mid-game sort of farm up early game and stomp, like, later. Kali's definitely a late game jungler. Bats is a little bit more late game. Mercury's sort of mid to late game. Like, if you want an early game jungler, I think Pele is probably your best option. Persephone's busted, dude. I don't care what her win rate in bronze says. She's really strong. Like, people don't know how to play her and also don't know how to play against her because she gets banned like every single game. But if Persephone ever gets through, she just dominates, man. Like, the plants do so much damage. She has so much range. The only thing she lacks is safety, but it's really hard to get on her when she just, like, pokes 50% of your health from out of nowhere and you just can't dive her at that point. You have to, like, get on her without her doing her ridiculous poke and ulting you from across the map. Poseidon's kind of trash. Daji absolutely just ruins him, which sucks. So does Nike, actually. And Kama. Like, a lot of the top gods just dive Poseidon and he does nothing. As soon as you hear that Kraken go off, you just ult his Daji, you avoid it, and then you kill him. And even, like, gods that don't do that to him, like, you just... Once he Krakens, he's useless. Like, what does Poseidon do once he Krakens? Nothing. That's what he does. Probably down here. Like, if you're a Poseidon main and you want some early game damage and you think you can carry the game with Krakens, be my guest, but honestly, I don't think he does much. Ra's pretty good. Ra's, like, A tier. If you can hit lines, you're pretty good with Ra. He's a decent healer as well. Like, if you can reset fights and just heal up in the circle, he can be really good. Really good for sieging because of that. Like, on sieges, like, the enemy can heal in fountains, so your poke isn't that relevant, but their poke's very relevant. But, yeah, their poke's completely irrelevant if you have Ra on a siege. And if you can, like, jump in with some CC, like a big Nike ult or something like that, Ra can follow up with ults. He's pretty good. Raijin's up here. Raijin's, like, the third of this trio, like, Discordia, Merlin, Raijin, that are, like, a little bit worse than Afro and Persephone, but they're still definitely, like, top contenders for mid lane, like, top 5. Raijin's burst is crazy. Like, he's not too safe, but he does so much burst damage. The ult's really good for, like, objectives or even just locking people down with, like, the taunt and the fear. Super good on defense, decent on sieging. There's not much Raijin doesn't do well aside from escape and safety. Rama, after the buffs, he seems quite good. Like, he's not S+ like some people are claiming he is. I think he's probably on the level of Hu Yi Jingwei, though. I'm seeing a lot of good Ramas, like, do a lot of work in these fights. His late game's crazy, his early game's not bad, especially, like, his early levels where he clears with the Astral Arrows. Pretty strong. Rat's not bad. A tier, I think. Like, the Acorn Rush can catch people off guard, especially in, like, mid to lower ranks. People don't expect you to have 50 power at, like, 2 minutes into the game, and then you can just, like, gank mid at level 2 and you kill him. Especially in lower ranks, I feel like Rat's surprise factor, like how good his early game is, you can snowball game super hard, but once you get to late game with Rat, he really doesn't do all that much, which is why he's, like, not higher up. Raven's decent. Probably A+. Like, he's definitely better than, like, Rat, Neja, Erlang Shen kind of junglers, but he doesn't do amazing either. Does quite well into Daji, actually. If they somehow managed to get Daji and it wasn't banned, Raven does quite well into that because he has 2 forms of CC immunity in his kit, so you almost don't even need to go bees. It kind of depends on the matchup, though. Scylla? A+, I think. I used to, like, think she was one of, like, the top mid laners, but she really doesn't compare to Discordia, Merlin, Raijin, and definitely not to Persephone and Afro. But I think she's probably as good as Janus and Hera. Like, she's got a crap early game. She really doesn't do much. She can barely even clear. Like, she needs assistance from the jungler to clear in the early game, which really sucks. But if you can get her out of, like, the first 10 minutes or so, when she starts getting a few, like, passive ticks online and you get a few points in your abilities, and especially late game, Scylla can dominate. Like, I like to go Blink Scylla. You can carry ranked games with Blink Scylla. You just blink in and, like, root 2 people and you get a free double kill. Serket? I feel like people think Serket's garbage, but I think she's just decent. She's just okay at, like, diving healers. Not amazing, because Afro can kind of immune the Serket a lot of the time, but does pretty well into hell and stuff. I don't know. Feels like she should be better with the anti-heal in this meta, but I think she just gets out-pressured a lot by a lot of the top junglers right now. Set's perpetually underrated, man. People don't respect how good Set is. I want to put him A+. Like, mainly for solo lane. I'm not sure how good his jungle is. I never really see him in jungle, but in solo he's really underrated, honestly. You have to be careful because he gets bodied by certain matchups. Like, if you pick Set and you leave King Arthur open, you're going to get absolutely destroyed. But he does decently in most matchups, and, like, his mid-game's super strong, especially if you can come out of lane with a lead. Skadi's garbage. Probably weak on main, honestly. Like, if you main Skadi, you might be able to do some work, but she's super unsafe, gets dived for free by a lot of the OP junglers and solo laners that are around right now. Unless you have, like, an Afro on your team, or maybe a Kepri or a Geb, she's not going to survive team fights very long. Sobek's busted, dude. Really good in support, insane in solo. doesn't really lose any matchups in solo. Like he just, or like he slightly loses every single matchup. Like he doesn't win any matchups at all, but he just stalemates the lane against most things. So like if they pick an aggressive solo like a King Arthur or a Kama, you can kind of just stalemate the lane because he never really gets like zoned or frozen out because you can just 3 and heal up. You can ult the wave if you need to for mana. And then once he gets to the late game teamfight stage, Sobek can single-handedly win teamfights. Like you just pluck, like you just feed your teammates kills with the pluck over and over again, honestly. Super fun, but super broken. I think he's definitely one of the lesser S+ tiers. Like I think at this point he's falling off and he's almost S tier, but I think I'll still put him in S+, because he does still get like first banned a lot of the time. Sol's, I don't really see Sol at all. I feel like she's balanced, but the fact that I never see her makes me think maybe she's B+. She's not really a situational pick though. It's a matter of if she's slightly below balance, which... Nah, she's not as bad as like Arbash and Chronos. I think I'll put her in balanced. She has really good objective damage, pretty good early game. Late game she gets dived quite a lot. Like she does have the immunity and stuff, which is really good, but like she can get bursted in like the 2 or 3 seconds before she goes immune. Like she gets bursted super hard by like a Dashi dive or something. Wukong's decent. Like he never loses a solo lane matchup ever because he's super insanely safe and clears the wave instantly with Cudgel. And then like if you can rotate with a lead, he can do a lot of work. It's just late game teamfights he's not that good. But he never loses lane, so if you just want a safe solo laner to pick, if you're not confident in solo, just pick Wukong. He never loses. Susanoo, really good, honestly. Probably S. Yeah, I think he's on a level with like Pele, Mercury. Like if you're a good Susanoo, you can do so much work. People don't seem to pick him that much, but when he does get picked, he seems to do really well. Like, his mid-game damage spikes super hard. Like, his early game's not amazing, but his mid-game's insane, and his late game's not bad either. Like, you can kind of blink in and just burst someone and get out for free because he has so much mobility. Sylvanas is kind of bad, man. Like, with the meta being just, like, OP junglers and solo laners being able to dive, Sylvanas just gets picked off super easily. Like, Dachi can just ult, and then he's forced to, like, use his ult in response. Nike just slows him infinitely and just dives him for free. Sobek picks him off with plucks and he dies instantly. Yeah, he's just not that good. I don't think you need to be a Sylvanas main to be successful with him though. He's just more of a situational pick. Like, if they don't have an amazing, like, backline dive comp, you can play Sylvanas pretty well as, like, a backliner. But he's not amazing, honestly. Terra's balanced. She does a lot of cool things. Like, she has a lot of initiation with the root and stuff. The ult's really good if you can use it correctly, but a lot of people don't. Underrated, probably. I almost want to put her in A+, but I don't really see results for that. Thana's A tier. You can snowball with him. The execute's kind of relevant late game, but if you miss the execute, no one's there to execute, or anything like that, his late game becomes completely irrelevant, so not amazing. Mori's another one of the top mid laners. Super skill intensive to play, so like you have to be really good at Mori to be able to play her well, but if you're good at Mori, you can honestly do so much work. Like, you can solo carry games with Mori. Like, if they have an OP pick like a Daji, you can just drop your Mori kit and nuke someone and then turn into Daji and do all the Daji things. So, like, she's really good, honestly. Thor, S+. I mean, not S+, S. He's banned like an S+, but he's not an S+. People overrate Thor all the time. Like, he's good, don't get me wrong, but, like, are you really gonna solo win games with Thor? Not really. Like, unless you snowball super hard in the mid-game. Like, he doesn't solo win games in the way that, like, a Daji would. Or a Bakasura would. And that's kind of what you want from ranks. Like, you don't want a big, nice team fight pick where you can, like, do all these combos and stun people and have follow-up from your team. You want to press W key and left-click and kill their entire team with Bakasura or Kali. Like, you want different things in rank than you want in, like, SPL. I think in SPL, Thor's a lot better, but for ranked, he's overvalued, honestly. Thor's bad. B+, probably. Like, he just gets died. It's kind of like Nuwa and Chronos, a lot of the gods down here. They just get died for free by all the solo and jungles. Not much you can really do about it. Tier, he was seeing a lot of play. They nerfed all the movement speed items. I think he's A+. Like, he's probably on the level of Wukong or Cyrus and stuff. Like, he does really well in lane. He can do quite a lot of work in teamfights. Like, honestly, people undervalue his teamfight potential. Like, you can just pick people off with Fearless and just, like, cause havoc in the enemy backline, and they're focusing their attention on you, and it allows your teammates to kind of get in. But he doesn't do anywhere near as much work as like a Nike in teamfights would do, And he doesn't snowball the lane super hard like King Arthur and Kama. Ula's S+. Probably the best ADC in the game. Maybe even better than Heim. Especially for ranks, like, you can just get a lead early on and then you actually just, like, if you hit an axe, someone's dead. Or they have beads and Aegis. If they don't, they're just dead, straight up. This god's stupid. For mana? No one really plays for mana. I feel like he's decent for, like, a kind of a carry, because you can just walk at their backline, but a lot of the things for mana does you can do better with other solo laners like Kama and Nike. I mean, to be honest, comparing any solo laner to Nike makes them look garbage, because Nike's just that good. Yeah, for mana's just pretty balanced. Like, he can do work. He's not situational in any way, really, but he's not good, like, particularly good. Vulcan's balanced. Honestly, like, he's kind of skill intensive. You gotta be able to hit your stuff on Vulcan, but if you can't hit your stuff, he does a lot of damage. He's just a bit unsafe. Like, he gets dived super hard by all the jungles and solos. That's kind of the story with a lot of, like, low mobility mages like this, or bad mobility mages like Thoth. Xbal, definitely underrated. His ult got nerfed or something, or like his bowlers got nerfed and people cried about it and said he's trash, but he's still pretty good. Probably on the level of, like, Cherno and Hachi, but not as good as, like, these ADCs up here, like Jingwei and Huyi. Jing Chen's good. Maybe S? Probably A+, though. Yeah, he's not S, I don't think. He does pretty well at diving, but, like, a lot of gods can do that. His ult's good if you have, like, another beads burner, and he's, like, super invincible in team fights, because he has so much HP 5 and ways to get around. Yamoja, probably the final S+ god here. Yeah. One of the strongest guardians in the game. If it's not banned, you should probably insta-pick it for your support. Like, she spams abilities super hard, she dominates the laning phase. Like, you can pick a low-pressure ADC and still win the laning phase with Yamoja, because she's that good. And her teamfight potential is really good too, if you know how to play her. Yumiya, super good, honestly. I feel like the wall change was really good. It's just there's not many people that are really good at Yumiya yet. I feel like in a month or two, when people have really learned Yumiya properly, and there's some good Yumiya players, and you get some showing in the SPL, he's going to be really good, but I'll put him in A+ for now. I think, honestly, he's potentially capable of being an S-tier support, though. Really underrated, in my opinion. Zeus gets dived for free every single game. I'm going to put him in B-tier. He's not like a void unless you're completely insane at Zeus, but you probably want to be a Zeus main if you're going to play him right now. Otherwise, he just gets dived, like, if you don't know how to position correctly and things. So the patch just went through when I'm making this. I don't know how good the Zhong buffs are going to be, but they're going to be good. Like, before I would have had him down here, but I think I'll put him here for now as, like, a conservative estimate. I think he might be S, honestly. Like, I think the Zhong buffs are insane. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's my tier list. Like I said, it's based mostly on my own experience in ranked, and I play in, like, high diamond, usually masters, if I've gotten on the grind. But, yeah, that's just my opinion, mostly. It's a little bit influenced by SPL, or, like, things that I've seen other people use, but this is mostly just what I've seen from ranked and what I think is good. That's why some of it's kind of polarized. Like, I'm saying Nike's the best god in the game, I'm saying Chuck's C tier, because I just don't think he does anything. But yeah, let me know your thoughts down below. This is probably a bit different to a lot of other tier lists you've seen that are based around more sort of empirical data, what's going on in the SPL. This is purely just my own opinion about ranked. And also it is for ranked, so like some gods that you might see a bit lower, like Baka. I think Baka's really good, specifically in ranked, and things like Arachne as well. But yeah, if you want to pub stomp ranked, play all these gods up here, and maybe some of these as well if you're good at them. Yeah, if you enjoyed the tier list, I know it's been kind of long. That's kind of how tier lists are. Like, that's why I don't like to do them. They're super long and super convoluted, and you got a lot to talk about. But if you do want to see more tier lists in the future, definitely do let me know down below. And I'll catch you guys in another video later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.